Welcome, Legionnaires, to the Long Live the Legion podcast, where we talk about the Legion of Superheroes comic book team and break subjects down so that whether you're just out of the Legion Academy or you're a longtime veteran, you get to know the team a little bit better. I'm your co-host, Jim.
And I'm your co-host, Jay.
And welcome to episode 38. What's on our mission and monitor board today, Jay?
On the mission and monitor board today, we have everybody's favorite Kahlua. I always think I'm talking about alcohol when I say this. We are talking
right over here.
We are talking about Brainiac 5, and to talk about every aspect of Brainiac 5 and to really break down this character, we have a very special guest. So, Jihae, if you could introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are.
Hi, I'm Jihae. It's Jihae. I'm an aspiring comic book creator. I'm hopefully heading towards the indie scene in the next few years. And like you guys said in your animated series episode, the target audience for that show was born around like 98 or 99, which is exactly when I was born. And I was a huge fan of the animated show as a kid. Brainy was always my favorite, because the autistic coded robot is always my favorite. At one point, I could recite the entire Brain Drain episode from memory because I was that obsessed with it. But thank you guys for inviting me, and I'm excited to be here.
That's awesome. I think you might be the first person that we've ever had on who had their first exposure to the Legion being the animated series. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I think as we talked about when we talked about that series, I don't think we realize how important it is, especially for, the reach that it had. And so it's great. It's great, Jihae. You're just going to have a completely different take on this. So I'm just going to go right into this first question. So aside from the coding of Brainiac 5, what was it about that character that you really loved in the animated series?
I mean, he was one of the better developed characters for sure. I think I could relate with being like a little awkward and trying to make friends, but kind of like saying stuff that kind of other people found a little abrasive, but I didn't mean it like that, Yeah, I like that aspect. I also like that he could stretch. I just thought that was really funny as a kid. Like anytime his body's across the room, his head's on the other side of the room, I was very pleased.
And that was one of the different versions that were probably the most different version, because I don't think any other version of Brainiac 5 ever did something like that as from an android perspective.
Well, yeah, because this was the first time I remember where they actually wrote him as an android. So he was completely robotic and he had all these cool special powers. I mean, it is one of the better reimaginings of Brainiac 5. I mean, we're going to talk about this more when we get into the whole character, but I really enjoy Brainiac 5 as the awkward person struggling with personal relationships. Like, he's great in the lab, but he's horrible everywhere else. All the times where they just turn him into an ass. And it's like, no, he can say the wrong thing, but it's not because he's being malicious or because he's looking down on people. It's because he doesn't understand personal relationships, which I think is a better way of handling the character.
I agree.
There we go. So that won't be a fight. So that's
not at all.
Every time we have a guest, I'm waiting to say something and the person go, no, you're 100% wrong. And we already know that's coming in the future with Matter Eater Lad. So let's go with let's talk about Brainiac 5, how he started, who is he, where he began. So Brainiac 5, or Quirrell Docs, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I know I probably am not. He started Action Comics 276 way back in May 1961. He was created by Jerry Siegel and Jim Mooney, who I have made the case for on many old episodes do not get the credit that they deserve for everything they've brought to the Legion. And he basically, I would argue that he was probably created just to really give the Legion a much stronger tie to Superman, to the whole Superman series, because we have Brainiac's descendant, hence Brainiac 5. And his superpowers are, he is, well, depending on which version you're reading, but I think 12th level intellect is where we go.
I think that's pretty consistent.
Yeah. I know early ones, it was like 7th or something. Like they kind of jumped around a little bit, but I like 12th. We'll just go with that.
Well, the higher number is always better. You
Exactly.
know, have your D&D stats, that's how it works.
So basically he's, and I will argue this with anybody who wants to come at me, he's the smartest character in all of the DC comic universe. Anybody want to disagree? Don't think so.
I mean, I think there is something to be said for other characters, like I would say specifically characters and things that he creates that may be smarter. And I'm thinking specifically of Computo here. So technically speaking, could be a smarter character, but of course it's not anything with a soul, right? It's just this machine that's kind of going on and doing what it thinks its purpose is. So, I mean, as an organic, I think you're probably right.
So if the only thing smarter than him is the thing he created, I'll take that. But
Yeah.
I would argue Computo has been defeated so easily in a few different situations that maybe he's not the smartest being in the 30th or 31st century. So.
Well, there's intelligence, and then there's wisdom and experience, right? About how you would approach things. So.
Very true. Very true. All
Other
right.
D&D staples.
So when we think about the very first appearances of Brainiac 5, there's another character that he's always been connected to, and that's Supergirl. Mm-hmm. They joined at pretty much the same time, and they've kind of always had a romantic subplot going throughout that as well. And he joined, I believe it was that basically he saved Supergirl, and then the Legion said, "Yep, you're in. This is good." Am I getting this timeline wrong, or does that sound right to everybody else?
Yeah, no, that sounds right. There's a kryptonite meteor, I think, and then he uses his force field belt to protect her.
Yeah, it's the start of the belt and the force field belt that has kind of been his go-to for, what are we at now, 65 years?
Something like that.
So senior citizen Brainiac 5. Normally Brainiac 5 shows up in the Legion, especially in the Silver Age, whenever they need somebody to either cure something, fix something, break something, or, I hate to say this for Silver Age, be the most sexist Legionnaire there is. It's kind of shocking to read when you go back and go through the Silver Age, because it's like every time they turn to him, he says something horrible like, "I don't want a girl on the team because she can't do this," or "I don't."
Too dangerous for a girl.
Yeah, it's too dangerous for Saturn Girl. I want just boys.
Props to Martin out there. Hi, Martin.
Yeah, it's a rough read in those early Silver Age stories. Didn't stop them from electing them leader, though.
But it also makes you wonder, what did Kara see in him? I mean, unless he was just on his best behavior whenever they would actually visit each other.
It must have been the pickup line, when they first met. He says, "Please remain and be my girl."
That's right, because that's all it took in the 60s.
Yeah, I know.
It was literally just
she said no, to be fair, but she said no.
I go with the purple jumpsuit. Really,
yeah, exactly. It's always the purple.
I mean,
he had Prince beaten by a couple of decades, right? So, but it is interesting that even from the very beginning, they were pairing this descendant of Superman's foe with Superman's cousin. So that's just what do you guys think about that?
Jihae, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the more compelling aspects of the character that I think does get lost a bit depending on the iteration, that he wants to kind of redeem his bloodline, basically. I'd like to see that make a comeback, not to skip ahead, but yeah, it was pretty important during the Silver Age, and it kind of, I don't know, it kind of faded as it went on.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important part of Silver. When they get into the Bronze Age, it's still, I mean, there's that, I don't know if this is a best moment or worst moment when he kind of goes, when it's his first signs of going a little bit crazy, and he builds the Supergirl robot that he takes off with.
I didn't think we're going to get to that so soon.
And when we get to volume 3, and he, when he kind of realizes this is when she's going to die, and he has to deal with that. So it is a through thread for 30 years. And even continues when we get into that animated movie, where the whole center of that movie is this Supergirl Brainiac 5 romance.
Yeah.
So yeah, or I was going to ask, I mean, I didn't see any of this, but on the Supergirl TV show, did they ever bring up Brainiac 5? Do either of you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of those episodes?
I have specifically watched Legion clips. I haven't watched the entire show. Yeah, I don't know. It looks fun, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, I mean, he was part of the crew of that initial group that came back into the past, and he ended up staying. So if you watched the latter episodes or the latter seasons of the show, you'd see Brainiac 5 kind of hanging around. The only thing is that they didn't really use that Supergirl Brainiac 5 romantic relationship because they were really doubling down on the Mon-El relationship.
They paired him with a descendant of Dream Girl, I think.
Dreamer. Yeah, it was Dreamer that they used, who was a descendant, or not a descendant, but a precursor to Nora from our time, or from our Legion. Yeah.
And sadly, I hope this isn't a spoiler for anybody who saw the Supergirl movie. No Brainiac 5 in there, and man, I was really hoping that was going to happen. So
soon.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, so there you go.
The spoiler warning there. I'll just say it was. I was just hoping come on, have Brainiac 5, but. No,
post-credit scene at least. Come on.
Okay, so when we think about Brainiac 5, when we think about let's talk about sort of the positive things he's developed, or the positive things he's discovered, or the things that have worked really well. Now, obviously, we just did an episode about Legion Tech, and almost every time we talk about Legion technology, his name comes up because he did invent the flight ring in the original version. I mean, I guess you can say he invented the telepathic earplugs because he's kind of credited with everything. He invented the cure for Monel's lead poisoning. He rebuilt the Legion headquarters at least twice.
Yeah.
That we want to give him credit for. Is there anything I'm missing? What else would we say Brainy's responsible for on the good side?
On the good side. I think that's the key piece of that here.
Yeah, because we'll get into the bad side.
I mean, I think the other big thing that's, I guess, very important that we need to talk about is the time bubble or the time platform, depending on which version that we're talking about, because that's the method in which the Legion interacted with the rest of the DC universe.
Yeah, and they do make the point. I know in Legion Secret Origin, where they basically say, like, no one else could have done this. It was Brainy, and that's it. Yeah, without Brainiac 5's, let's say time bubble, just because we'll stick in the Silver Age bit. Yeah, they don't go back. They don't meet Superboy. None of that happens. And I think it's a key part of it, even with all the later problems that it would then cause.
Right.
But it's a key part to the Silver Age stories, is that you need to have that. Any other tech, Jihae?
I mean, I guess not to jump ahead too far, but with like the Computo storyline and the reboot, I guess you could argue maybe that was a good thing since it led to Robotica and everything. Although that was more Computo's thing. He didn't, Brainy didn't do that. But I mean, yeah, going back to what you said earlier about Computo having a soul, I guess that storyline kind of calls that into question even. But we'll probably talk about that later.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a
And
good thing.
I don't know. I'm also trying to think, like you just mentioned there, Jihae, it's just thinking about all the different versions of the Legion. I'm just like, okay, what else? I did think a little bit about the 3 boot when he was doing whatever it was that he was doing to try to save Dream Girl after her fate. And so that was certainly a noble cause, and it kind of put an interesting twist on the Dream Girl character altogether, at least before the end of the series. But I don't know. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. Is there anything else, Jay, that you're thinking of?
Yeah, so I'm going to go reboot, where basically after Brand's Stargates all sort of collapse, and after the Blight, when they come back, isn't he the one that basically kind of reboots the whole space travel system? Like, he's the one kind of behind everything. He's the one who's got Shikari's people to lead them through the new form of gates. I always thought he was sort of the one behind all that.
Well, I'm sure he was part of the effort, because it was a weird system where they kind of used, and I'm trying to remember this just off the top of my head, where Legion World was the hub and they built like these portals, but they'd still need the Quai to help, guide whoever was going from point A to point B. Right. So it was kind of a personal Stargate system in that way. Right.
Yeah.
Instead of using ships, it was just a point to point for an actual person to go.
Yeah. I think I'm just now used with the Legion of anytime new tech shows up, I'm assuming he's at the center behind all of it. And it's the same if there's ever an explosion in a lab, he's going to be there.
Right. Right.
And if ever there's a crazy robot that's going to start killing people, he's behind that as well, which leads to probably his biggest creation, and probably like the thing that he is, has had the biggest effect on the Legion, which would be Computo, right? Mm-hmm. He invents Computo. We talked about Computo on an early episode and basically said there is no Ultron, so there is no Age of Ultron without Computo for Marvel fans. But yeah, he came up with this sentient computer back in the 60s that ended up killing one of Triplicate Girl's bodies, takes over the Earth, traps pretty much every Legionnaire, and was, probably the biggest Legion story up to that point.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
And then brings him back.
Yeah,
in the 80s, completely by accident, and Computo ends up possessing Invisible Kid 2's sister, so Danielle.
Yeah, and that was interesting too, because as part of that, eventually you get the character of Computo that appears in the original Legionnaires series, but then this also plants the seeds eventually for that new headquarters that you mentioned, and then the kind of the weird Validus-looking Major Domo that they have running around the headquarters.
Yeah, it's really, really strange in that you get him putting Computo into what looks like the body of Validus, which I have commented is, why Duo Damsel at that point would even want to be in that building would kind of break my brain a little bit. And then that being ends up being Bion in 5 years later. So that's Computo kind of comes back and continues as the villain. So Brainiac 5's problems just keep going. And every time when he thinks he's in control of this, something happens. Something breaks that just doesn't work for him. And kind of like, Jihae, what you said, like when we get Computo in Reboot, it's a very, very different origin, but then the outcome when you mention like the Roboticans, right? Like you could maybe say Brainiac 5 is the grandfather of the Robotican world.
Yeah, that works, I think.
Right. And so, and in that case, he makes Computo by, okay, I got to make sure I get these three things right. It's a mother box, it's an Omnicom, and it's a responsometer.
Right. Yep.
Okay. To get into really weird DC history. So, of course, mother box is tied to Darkseid, and it's the supercomputer of the new gods. And then a responsometer is the computer that makes the metal men exist.
Yeah. And very specifically, this one was Doc Magnus's responsometer.
Yeah. And then an Omnicom, which you'd think would be like the least technologically advanced of the three. But
well, I think that the Omnicom was there to be used as effectively, it was just a data source, a brain, right? So that he could learn, so that computer would then know everything, because it's an Omnicom. It has all the information.
Okay. And this is going to lead to my first question when we talk about Computo. Okay. So I'm not a 12th level intellect. I'm not the smartest person in the room, but even I know that combining these three massively powerful computers is probably a bad idea. So it always leads to my question of like, is Brainiac 5 actually intelligent, or is he just smart?
All right. Jihae, I'm going to let you take that one first. I have a very specific thought on this.
Yeah, I guess I think he lacks common sense at times. Obviously, he needs a lot of like technical expertise to be able to do something like that. But I think I see this a bit in like the original continuity and a bit in the reboot too, where he gets really like engrossed by the idea of something and then doesn't really think about the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of ties into the whole like Frankenstein parallel they do with Computo. But yeah, what were you going to say, Jim?
Yeah, no, you're tracking along with what I'm thinking very closely, because I was thinking kind of the mad scientist motif. You know, it's one of the scenarios where just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, to use the whole Jurassic Park metaphor. And it's one of those things where he has these great ideas that of accomplishing something, of making some great technology, but then doesn't take that next thought to see, okay, using a thought experiment, which Brainy should be able to do from a 12th level intelligence perspective. What would happen? What are the consequences? What's the fallout of what could happen based on this wonderful thing that you built? And that never gets explained. So yeah, when you said Frankenstein, I'm like, yeah, mad scientist. This is exactly where the dark side of Brainy kind of shows up.
I think he even calls Computo like a Frankenstein's monster in the first time Computo appears. And then in the reboot where Computo's like, "You're my dad," and Brainy's like, "No, I'm not." That's basically the plot of Frankenstein, right?
Yeah. And we're kind of living this today, right? Of the original Computo was invented, and it was kind of tiny, kind of rinky dink, but then it self-evolved, kind of like you mentioned Ultron, Jay, right? It got to the point where it could be self-correcting and self-evolutionary, I guess, to use that word, because it ended up becoming this more complicated, more complex creature, and to very diabolical consequences. But it's absolutely the trope of the science gone wrong, and God knows we're living that today.
Oh, come on, our science is fine today. What are you talking about?
What could go wrong?
There's no problem at all as people stop thinking and just let AI do it. No, that's good. We're all becoming the beginning of WALL-E. That's really where we're headed. So it's fine. Okay.
So let me add another thing into the discussion here, because even though he does all this horrible stuff, or horrible stuff is the byproduct of a lot of what he does, everybody still wants him around, right? Because he is so smart and he can do all these things, and he does make good things that are useful for the Legion. When I think about Brainy, even though we're having this mad scientist discussion right now, I always felt, and this is just absolutely with hindsight glasses on, because Brainiac 5 was introduced in the late 1950s. Star Trek doesn't come out until 1966. I always kind of equated a Spock to Brainy kind of parallel, right? And you see this in the Star Trek Legion crossover that they did, illustrated by Jeff and Phil Moy. Well, it was 10 years ago, whenever that was. And so to me, that always kind of connects. And, Spock does have a little bit of a vulnerable side because he is half human, but Spock never goes and does these crazy things most of the time. I mean, there's obviously a couple of occasions where he does for dramatic purposes or whatever, but it's not this consistent thing like it seems to be with Brainy.
Yeah, I think Brainy makes like a lot of massive mistakes, but like after that, he'll make it his whole like personality trying to fix it. So he does like take accountability in that way. So I think
Mhm.
maybe that has a role in why the other Legionnaires aren't too mad about it. You do still see some of the resentment like seep up here and there, but yeah, for the most part, I think they understand he had good intentions. Well, except with Omega, maybe that wasn't a very good intention, but
Exactly. I think that's the thing. And Omega is a very stereotypical example of the kind of stuff that he does that goes so wrong.
That wasn't an experiment gone wrong. That was him going crazy.
Yeah.
Like that, you're
right.
right. So I kind of put that into a different box. Like to me, there's 3 levels of what Brainy does, right? Like there's the I come up with an invention that's actually useful and good, and I provide background and I help solve problems. So like the positive side of Brainy, right? And then there's the side of, I mean, it's really interesting when everybody says consequences, and I think that's the big thing about Brainiac 5 is that he doesn't seem to understand consequences, which seems like a really weird thing for somebody who's so like it's like you have to kind of understand this, but he just seems to operate in this world of like I am always protected from my mistakes. And then bad things happen. And then there's the third part of Brainy, which is that, that period in the Bronze Age where he goes crazy. He has a mental breakdown. And so to me, it's like, well, that's not an experiment. I mean, that was a
Well,
purposeful, I'm going to create this creature that's going to destroy everything.
sure. But it's the mad of the mad scientist trope.
True.
Right. Right.
True.
So, he's literally going crazy and he's creating things that he shouldn't while he's in that state.
Although I know we're gonna get more into this Omega storyline as we talk about Brainiac 5, but it's always the funny thing where like the original premise or the plot of it is like he murders somebody and then creates Omega, and then I have to assume Omega killed somebody in that walking across the galaxy destroying
sure.
things. But then Brainiac 5 is like, well, obviously I didn't murder anybody because I'm not a murderer. And I was like,
Starboy might have something to say about that.
yeah, and it's like I don't know if that works, but they had to keep him on the team, right? They had to get that murder plot off of his head, so they fixed that. I'm going to go back to the other thing that I think both of you sort of approached, which is the why they let him stay on the team, and I think that's when we get into the sort of the best moments of Brainy and the worst moments of Brainy. And I think that's always where they get stuck is that there are moments in 3-boot, and I think there's even moments in Reboot as well, where as you're reading, you're going, why would they put up with him? Like, what is he bringing to the table? I mean, especially with Reboot, where like it's Invisible Kid who invents the ring, and Invisible Kid is kind of shown as almost equal to Brainy, and you're like, so what's Brainy bringing here? Like, what is he doing
other than property damage?
Yeah, and 3-boot's even worse. Like he's purely a sociopath in 3-boot. Like he doesn't care about anybody, and you sort of say, well, why are you putting up with this guy? I think with Brainiac 5, if you're going to write him as a mad scientist, or if you're going to write him as this someone who doesn't care about consequences, there has to be something else there. Like it's like we talked about. Why would Supergirl date him? Like what? Like there has to be. We have to have a reason. And when Brainy works, there's a reason. And when Brainy doesn't work, you just kind of stare at the page and go, like, yeah, why isn't Ultra Boy put this guy through a wall? Like I don't, especially 3-boot version. Like this doesn't make any sense to me.
That goes both ways, I guess, in 3-boot.
Yeah,
I think most of them needed their head through a wall in 3-boot.
Yeah, truer words were never said. But I mean, where I was going to go was there's that obviously some people, and I guess this is really literally for any version of Brainiac 5. Somebody sees something in it because he does have friends that aren't Legionnaires, so he has some kind of reputation in the scientific community to be able to deliver interesting things. So you have Ron Vidar, you have what's the cricket, Circadia, right? So they're his two people that he talks to, and you don't see too many other Legionnaires that have these other contacts outside of like Gigi Cusimano or somebody like that.
But that's in both cases, that's OG Brainy.
That's
right?
true.
Like when I think
100%.
of Reboot or 3-boot or like, and then I think, okay, who are his friends? I mean, just period. Forget about outside the Legion.
Yeah.
Who are his friends? Like 3-boot, he gets obsessed with Dream Girl, but there's parts of the story where I'm reading it going like, is this just all in his head? Like, and she's just dead? Because it's so creepy and weird anyways.
Yeah.
But with Reboot, like, who are his friends in Reboot?
Gates.
Because they're
But
both
that's after the 5.1 update,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. After he gets his personality transplanted, Gates kind of becomes his friend. But other than that, nobody else. He has that. Obviously, he has that obsession over Andromeda, but there's
Right.
they never really, strangely enough, they never really do anything with that.
I think they also implied he had this thing for Lyle.
That's
Uh,
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. But again, like were he and Lyle friends, or was he just attracted to Lyle's mind? Like I when I was doing my research, it actually says this is on Wikipedia, and it says like in DC Pride in 2022, they revealed Brainiac 5 is demisexual.
Mhm.
And I'm like, so he's just attracted to the person, if I'm understanding that term correctly. And as an old man, I'm never too sure.
Yeah.
Usually people consider demisexual to be like you feel sexual attraction, but only after you have a strong emotional connection to the
Okay.
person.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I thought. Okay, I
Okay.
wasn't wrong. Thank you, Jihae.
Thank you.
I was right on that one because I yeah. I always read this and then I think I have it in my head, and then I read something and I go, no, I don't actually have that, and then that's when I go, I'm not smart.
But I think the term absolutely applies with
Yeah.
Reboot Brady, because we do find out that he has a stash of hidden pictures that include Andromeda and Spark, and apparently Invisible Kid is among those pictures. So
I mean, he
Yeah.
also kisses him on the cheek, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, yep,
One of
yep,
Yeah.
And he didn't seem
absolutely.
upset about it, so I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily requited feelings, but he wasn't like, "It'll get off me," so
Yeah,
And I think that's a great way to handle Brainiac 5 of just like, I'm sexually attracted to you after I know you and make a great connection, and gender doesn't matter. Because I would think to somebody like Brainiac 5, it wouldn't. Like
Yeah.
it would be, who do I connect with most on an intellectual or personal level? And I think that's a great way to rate the character. And when I read that, I was like, that's perfect. That's how this person should be written. So it's really nice. And I mean, I know we're kind of jumping around here and we're kind of getting on all this because again, I will say this to anybody who's listening, and I don't know, Jihae or Jim, if you found the same thing. Like when I was doing research, I found like there's just so much about Brainiac 5 to talk about that
Yeah.
we can like,
there's a lot.
right? Because he's one of, I'd say if you're making a list of the most important Legion characters from start to today, he's definitely top 5. Like I don't,
sure.
right?
Easy.
Like even think like the newest version, he's the main, like it's him and Lightning Lad who are in kind of the biggest role in what's going on and what they're presenting. He's a really, really critical character. And I think he's probably one of the most recognizable. Jihae, you mentioned you knew him from the animated show, and he's one of the only characters who's important in both seasons.
yeah, and he's had several appearances outside of, like, Legion-specific stuff as well,
Yep.
with the Supergirl show, and that had a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
Quality of the
Yeah.
writing aside.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. And then Jay, remember when we were talking about Starboy, you'd made the comment of he's probably the most used Legionnaire outside of the Legion. I think Brainiac 5 is probably the other one.
Yeah, I think I was just going with the with Starboy. I was just thinking of his big run on JSA and his like they've I mean even being pulled into the Starman series. But I think in both inside the comics and externally, I think Brainiac 5 is the key. And I think part of it is like, let's just give credit right from the start. It's a very simple design. It's a very simple look, but it really jumps off the page. Like that
Absolutely.
yellow, green, and purple. I mean, I joked about the purple jumpsuit before, but like it's just this perfect look that catches your eye when you're reading a comic.
It's a fashion disaster, and I love that because I just think that's so in character.
Because why would he care, right?
Yeah,
Why would
exactly.
So it's like I always sort of put him into the Mr. Fantastic category, right? Of like that smart guy who doesn't think about anything else or
Yeah.
gets distracted by a lot of other things.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
perfect.
exactly. The kind of guy who just doesn't take a shower because he's so
Yeah.
focused on whatever it is that he's doing.
Yeah. Or it's like, when's the last time you shaved? I don't know. I was too busy. It's just
A week. The answer is a week. So I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Sleep in the lab. Instead of going
Yeah,
to bed.
GA can't see the video. Neither of us have shaved for this podcast, so we both look like bums today. But be happy. Be happy you're not watching this. All
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
let's focus on the good, the positive, the best moments or the best stories for Brainy. So, GA, what would be your first thought of like what is your favorite Brainy moment?
Oh, that's really hard.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
I mean, the Baxter era is just generally my favorite era. So I really enjoyed like the Universo projects, the like getting obsessed with Sensor Girl storyline, whatever that's called, the Infinite Man stuff. Yeah, those are probably my favorites.
I had that as well. I actually had all Baxter series, the whole volume 3. I think from start to finish, it's probably the best Brainiac 5s is in the Legion. And you covered it. Universal Project, the Sensor Girl obsession, the death of Supergirl, the death of Superboy, the revenge on Time Trapper, him quitting, like all the beats, like it's just hitting on all cylinders. And they really get into his personality as well. Like I love the moments like when he bonds with Saturn Girl in the Universal Project. We talked about that many episodes ago, but I think it's such a good sign of his character, like of who he is. The fact that he tolerates Dream Girl knowing that she's as smart as she is, and it just drives him nuts that she pretends that she's not. And he's like, you're a genius. Why are you acting like this? And it's this great counterpoint, this great counterbalance. Yeah, awesome. I mean, I know I put you on the spot, but you went exactly to the same place I went when I was thinking about this. So thank you. Jim, how about you?
I mean, y'all really hit the nail on the head with pretty much everything that you kind of said. And for me, and I had to think about this one for a good bit, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on from the beginning into the Levitz run where, he's either just there to invent something or use his tech to get out of a jam with his force field belt, something like that, or he goes crazy, all that kind of stuff that we talked about.
Or he's exposition lad.
Yes,
that's his other job, right?
But for me, the thing that I really liked the most from a character perspective was when he was part of that cabal to take down the Time Trapper. That just really resonated with me for some reason. And I don't think if I can understand why. I think it's just because he's like, it's one of the few times that he actually does something arguably from an emotional perspective. Right. Where, it doesn't happen very often, because even though he does have these, human moments and he breaks down and things like that, he is kind of a logical character, and so especially after Star Trek comes out, they kind of start putting him a little bit into that mold. But I think that between what happens with Kara during the crisis and then with Superboy and the Time Trapper, he's just like, screw this. we're gonna go after this bastard and we're gonna take him down, and joins with the other Legionnaires to do that.
Well, yeah, because the Time Trapper basically showed him that his greatest invention didn't work.
Yeah.
Like the thing that you thought, the thing that was your greatest moment, your greatest achievement, it's like, nope, you didn't actually travel through time. You did this.
You did it because I let you.
Yeah. And and I think you're right. It's this emotional response that we don't get. That whole issue, like the trial of Brainiac 5, I think it's 51, is just so well done. And you just get into Brainiac's head and he's defending himself. And it's that argument of like, was the Infinite Man actually dead? Like what, like, and it's just brainy logically, but he's trying to explain an emotional response logically. And you can tell he's struggling. And eventually he's just like, I know I'm going to win because I already know how everybody's going to vote, but I'm going to quit. So this isn't a problem anymore. And it's just perfect Brainiac 5. Like,
yeah, no, exactly.
Start to finish. So I was going to say, I know it's easy to pick like the best of Brainy when we're talking OG. So I'm going to make it a little bit harder. Sorry. But I'll start with Jim because I'll be nice here. Best Brainy moment in Reboot or 3-boot or Bendis boot. And I know we can wipe away 3-boot and Bendis boot already.
Yeah, there ain't nothing good there. This is going to be a weird one for me because we haven't really talked about the whole 3-boot era too much, because there's absolutely two distinct eras. There's the initial post 0 hour time frame, and then there's the Abnett and Lanning DNA time frame. And DNA comes in. There are two things that happen. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, where Brainy's just an ass for pretty much most of the first half of the run. And then they get sucked into this, the whole plot element is really dumb, but an anomaly, and he comes out of it changed into what they call Brainiac 5.1. He has shorter hair. He seems to have a better sense of humor about things, and he makes friends, but also he seems to have a little bit better handle on things. And this really comes true, I think, when Abnett and Lanning take over. And there was just one little moment where I think he and Lori Morning are out investigating the rift that's happening, that's eventually going to turn into the Legion Lost story. And he just basically kind of turns to her and gently is like, you shouldn't be cussing. You're too young to be cussing. It's just a really small moment, but it's this very kind of a gentle admonition that Brainiac would give. And I would never expect him to do that, right? At least that's how we've been seeing him portrayed during that time period. And it just sticks with me. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's just a little moment. It's a very tiny character moment with another character that a lot of people don't like, but it sticks with me.
Those are the best moments, right? Like those
Yeah.
little moments that just you read them and it just hits, like the art and I can picture what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's just this perfect little character bit that stands out because it's so well done. So some of those are the best. So, all right, Jihae, did I give you enough time to think of one for yourself?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I think because my favorite is like the OG timeline, so it's a little harder to think of like my favorites within my favorite, but the other eras, it's a little easier to like point to the specifics,
Yeah.
I guess. I guess in the in the three boot, I guess I would just say that it kind of seemed like they were taking a lot of influence from like Legion
Hmm.
in terms of like how Real Docs the Second was written. I haven't finished that comic series yet. I'm only like 20 issues in, but I'm already like, oh, I feel like I know this guy, but it's because I read three boot and I've never read anything else with him. So yeah, I mean, I don't know who liked him, to be honest, but that's okay, I guess. In the reboot, though, I liked how they kind of fleshed out his backstory a little bit more because I feel like that was always kind of nebulous in the like
Mhm.
original continuity.
Yep.
Where they would like retcon without addressing the fact that they retconned, or like it was always very vague. So I did like the story where they like gave him his like storyline with his mom. That was kind of crazy. I know people didn't like that. I heard because they didn't want her to be evil. But I mean,
So, Jihae, just to get a little bit more clarification, are you talking about that one episode, or the issue where he's in Takran Galtos and he gets interrogated by a telepath from Titan, or are you talking about
yeah,
the actual Dark Circle story?
both.
Okay.
It kind of comes full circle in the Dark Circle storyline, I
Yeah,
guess.
true. Yeah, because I did like that issue myself. It looks like it's Legion of Superheroes 77 from the V4
Yeah.
edition. And yeah, I was not a big fan of the Dark Circle story. I think we could probably have another episode on that one just by itself. But yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but it's a good brainy story. It might be a bad part of a bad Dark Circle story, but I just have to say the comparison to the Legion Vril Docs, I think I'd never thought of that before, but that's
a great
bang
call
on.
out.
Like and same writer, right? Mark Waid's on both of those. Like so maybe he was just recycling. He was recycling what he was going to do, and same artist. Like just the same creative team. So that's a great call. I'd never thought of that. And it's now, you kind of blew my mind a little bit because now I'm just seeing these parallels.
Yeah, totally.
That's perfect.
They both got the buzz cut, you know?
Yeah. Still doesn't make me like it anymore, but I'm happy with that. That's cool.
But kind of going off of that, the like storyline about his mom, I feel like that really made the like the Legion story, or the story in the book called The Legion about Computo, just like stand out all that much more. I think that story was about parenting, like as much as it is about like other themes that are maybe a bit more obvious. But yeah, I think that said a lot about his character, about how even though he never got that like compassion from his mother, he was able to successfully parent Computo.
Yeah. And you just saying that just kind of brought me back full circle to that little moment with Lori, right? Because that's kind of a parenting moment.
Yeah, I mean, you could say maybe for the whole reboot, he's just looking for a parent or a child or just family. And maybe that's why he sticks with the Legion and puts up with all of maybe that's why he puts up with Coco for the entire run, which, you've just kind of opened a door for all of these reboot Brainiac 5 discussions.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think they basically say as much, you know, or they imply it anyway in that initial story, right, where he gets mind probed. You know, we do see that his mother is a blonde Coloan woman, and you're like, okay, that's interesting because he has this obsession with Andromeda, who's blonde.
Oh no.
Right. You know, so that there's a lot of Freudian stuff going on right there. But then when we actually get to that moment and, you know, and he does discover her and who she is and what she's all about, it really, I think it turns something inside of him. And even though he'd already been transformed into this slightly more emotionally available character at this point, it's still a moment where it's like, oh, this is a big deal. And then, you know, and it shows that there's a moment with, I think, Lyle and Gates where, you know, it really shows the people that he leans on kind of in a way, which is an interesting thing to see from a Brainiac perspective.
But I think it's good when you show Brainiac being a little bit weaker or not sure. I think that's always a great touch to the character. Like my favorite Brainiac 5 moment from Reboot is in Legion Lost. Like the issue where he basically is like, I don't know. I can't
I'm
fix
taking it.
anything. Like I'm literally just pretending because I can't do anything. Like, and it's this huge dramatic moment where they keep looking at him like, you're going to solve the problem. And he finally just turns to Saturn Girl like, I don't have a clue. And it was this, it's this great moment of him facing failure. And ironically enough, like him putting on a brave face to make everybody else feel good, even though he knows he's lying. And it was this great sense of the character that you just hadn't seen before. And I wish they had done more after that. Like they had kind of continued with that. And I thought in the Legion, he had his hits. Like we've already brought up the whole Computo story. And I thought that was great. But it's always one of those with Brainiac 5. I think I always just want more. And he's just one of those characters like, just give me more of this. Show me more of the failing. Like you don't have to show him be the butt of the joke. Like he's the arrogant one who fails and ha ha ha. But like have him fail and the emotional impact of that, where he's like, I'm going to lose something. Like to kind of call back to Universal Project, like when he realizes somebody's been playing with his mind, and that's what, like, he's just, oh my God, like somebody messed with my mind. And it's this, I could lose something that's most important, or I could fail at what I'm doing. And it's a great moment for him.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I got to say too, I still want to kind of harp on this Robotica Computer scenario a little bit more too. And Jihae, I really thank you for bringing this subject up, because it's really a great discussion point about this, for lack of a better term, expressing this nurturing side of Quirrell Dox that we haven't really seen. Because what does he do? To resolve the robotic in conflict, what does Brainy do? He gives his child what the child wants, which is a chance to grow. And he realizes that, oh my gosh, this is the way to stop all this stuff from happening is to let them grow and understand the broader picture. And that's what he does. And I don't know if a Bronze Age Brainy would be able to do that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I'm pretty sure when he finally puts Computo into the butler mode, he just like does like an evil laugh. So I don't think he felt very bad about that or anything.
Yeah, because we do get to see. So let's spin back the wheel a little bit here, because we do see the older Brainy when we go into 5 years later, and we also see that contrasted with the younger Brainy from the SW6 batch, and they seem like very, very different people, because one's had a full lifetime and and had the love of their life leave them, I guess. However, I don't know if we ever get a full explanation of what happens there, but there's a lot of interesting interpersonal dynamics that are going on.
Well, have we started on the worst moments in Brainy history? If we're going to talk about 5 years later, is that where we are now?
Well, we can go there. I just wanted to make sure that we touched on the 5 years later stuff, because there's a lot of weird stuff going on there.
Yeah, I'm just going to apologize to everybody who loves 5 years later. It's almost every episode we've talked about a character, and it's like, what are the worst moments? Well, 5 years later, and then I start my rant. So I won't do that.
Well, I will say this though. I think there's so many bad things that Brainiac 5 has done ever since he was introduced that I think of all of them before I even think about anything 5 years later related.
So here's the thing, like, how we talk about like little moments that kind of stick to you or stick in your brain, or really, either you love them or you hate them. And it's like, in every case, when I think of Brainiac 5's biggest mistakes or biggest failings, not counting when he goes insane. Okay. So just him, it's the mad scientist. So the intentions are good, but it goes askew. And the thing that annoys me the most in the 5 years later Brainy is he knows Bounty is Dawnstar. He knows she's cut off her wings. He knows she doesn't have her memory anymore. He knows all of these things and does absolutely nothing. So he's made a choice to basically betray his former teammate. And admittedly, they weren't the closest. They weren't buddies. Like, so to me, that's why to me that's the worst one, because he's actively choosing to say, I am not going to help this former teammate of mine. Whereas everything else, it's just like, hey, I thought this would be cool. Boom. And then
so my worst, we'll just put the worst moments out there.
Yeah.
For at least our picks, mine is 100% how he treated Starboy. Right. Yeah. I was just like, that's because that's a very similar situation, right? He's actively saying, get out of here. I'm looking at this with total armchair quarterback glasses here. You suck. You're gone. Right. And he didn't need to do that. That's why he's on my list for that.
Jihae, do you have a worst Brainy?
Ooh, I mean, aside from like all of the reboot, I feel like it's hard to get worse than that. But um, I don't know. Maybe a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I didn't love retro boot Brainy. Like, I know that.
No, I'm with you. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, no.
Okay,
Well, I
yeah.
think
Great
that's,
call.
yeah.
Like, I know Professor Levitz was back on it, but it felt different. I don't know. The character felt like he was a little more like insensitive and like just grouchy. And I think his reaction to learning that Earthman was going to join the team was to yell "No!" so loud that they like zoomed out to the outside of the clubhouse and then just had like a giant speech. And I'm like, I just feel like that's kind of juvenile. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. He was all right though. The reboot was definitely worse for me, and yeah, like 5 years later, like you guys were saying.
So I think actually, and tell me if I'm wrong, the problems with the retro boot is the same problem with 5 years later, is that it's the Brainy that you know isn't this character because you saw them in the Baxter series. Whereas
Yeah.
like, so that's why like, and I agree with you with retro boot. I hate the Brainiac 5 in retro boot because almost every issue he's just, again, written like an ass. And then to make it even weirder, whenever Levitz writes the flashback or the flashback episode issues of like Adventure, where he's rewriting the Silver Age, Brainy's not like that. So
Yeah.
it's two different Brainies in the same,
100%.
and it's like, I'm like, okay, so why is he like this? Like, are you going to explain why Brainy turned into this openly hostile, judgmental dick when we know he's not? Like, we've kind of seen like that's not who this character is. Whereas with Three Boot, yeah, you're just like, okay, you're just horrible. I mean, my note for Three Boot is he's just a prick for the whole run, and then that's it. And there's like, there's no redemption. It's just wow. And I think that's like for me, and please disagree. Like that's what. With Retroboot, that's probably what's most annoying is I'm like, Levitz, you should know better. This is your character. Like,
well, he does know better because he writes him better in the Adventure series. Yeah. You know, the Secret Origins.
Well, Secret Origins, he's just kind of an eccentric weirdo, but like
but it's like, you know, I
but
mean,
he's still a good,
yeah, you're not like, oh my God, you're a jerk. You know, you're just like, okay, you're a weirdo. You have your little quirks, that's fine. You know, it's not, you know, he's not actively hostile or being a jerk to other people.
Yeah. If they had done something, like if he had, I mean, like something's, I'm trying to think of like something just simple they could have done. Like if they had like some reveal where he got hurt by a Legionnaire or some Legionnaire worked against him, or like there was something that made him kind of lash out, but there's nothing. There's nothing in the story.
Unless it's like, and I don't know what the status of Supergirl was at the time. They could have easily used the death of Supergirl as that turning point, as that pivot, right?
But she's back. And they actually have him meet her.
Yeah, at the time, though. But I'm trying to remember which version it is, because they did a whole lot of stuff with Supergirl in the aughts and, you know, and in the early teens.
Right.
No, but this is like Supergirl. So this is like Last Stand and New Krypton.
Okay.
They're back. They actually have moments where she and Brainy are talking, and Brainy's like, I used to date you like 15 years ago. And there's some creepy-ish moments where you're like, okay, Brainy, you're like in your mid-20s and this girl's like 16, and like just stop.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's some really weird moments where I don't think they knew how to. Well, I mean, look, I've made these comments in a lot of my reviews. Like, none of the editors are talking to each other. None of the writers are talking to each other. Like, they're just throwing stories. And I think he probably got the directive. Like, everybody knows Brainy is a jerk. That's how you have to write him. And I don't think he got. I think that was the only note. So it's rough.
Well, before we move off of the sucky parts of Brady, I do want to bring up that the other one that was runner up for me was his making of the Supergirl sex bot. While we're talking about this stuff, that was just wrong. So you know what I mean? It was just, come on, man, what are you doing?
And was that a Shooter or was that a Carrie Bates? Do you remember? I mean, it screams Jim Shooter, but it's like, but I don't want to just automatically blame him.
Let me see if I can find which one that is.
So that's a rough one.
Carrie Bates is our author of the Supergirl sex bot. So
there we go. And then Carrie. Of course, the best part is Supergirl saves him. Like real Supergirl saves him and is like cool with it. Hey, you just built a robot of me to go live with. I'm good. We're still buddies, right? So.
I did it in my sleep.
That's for you.
So is that a legal defense now? I did it in my sleep. I was sleepwalking. Whereas a far better one of handling him in Supergirl is, of course, later on when they're on that mission in Weber's world, like post Great Darkness saga, and they're together again, and he just turns to her and is like, "You're so distracting. I can't think clearly, and this is why I'm screwing up." And it's a rude thing to say, but it's a very brainy thing to say. Just like you're messing with my head. I can't think when you're around. And she's just like, "What?" Yeah, far better than a sex robot.
Yes. And then we should go back to, well, I guess from a 5 years later perspective, talk more about the Legion on the Run version of Brainy, just because we have to bring it up. We have to talk about this, Jay. That's how it is. That's what we do on this podcast, So anyway, the short version is that Brainy gets aged up by Glorith and has to wear this weird puffy suit for the rest of the series.
And then to hide his identity, he calls himself Five. Yeah. So still green guy, still super smart, still hanging out with Legionnaires, but there's no way that's Ultra Boy because he's called Green Dragon now or whatever.
It's like Superman with the glasses and Clark Kent. Come on, it's
so yeah. What's your new code name?
Chops for the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I'm just like
just wanted to make sure we put that out there. So
I mean, at the time, I did think he was probably the best character to get aged up since his lifespan is so long. He wouldn't turn into dust or something.
Yeah.
But
the fact that he couldn't walk, it's like you have to have he had to have a robot suit,
a big
so he could move around. That's how old he was. Yeah, I still will never figure out how, and I'm sure he's a very nice human being, and I have nothing against Tom McCraw, but I have no idea how he kept writing comic books after that part of the run. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I think they were just trying to all right, we know we're going to do this reboot thing. Let's just get to the finish line.
But he kept going. He stayed on with the reboot.
I know. But he was much more of a colorist than a background plotter versus a writer.
So here we go. This will be my one defense of Brainy for 5 years later. And like you say, those little moments that stick in your head.
It's a good thing
this is the moment where Chameleon Boy's been shot and he goes, "I hope he moved his organs around like I told him to do." And it was this perfect little Brainy, man, I gave this guy a good piece of advice because I think differently from everybody else. And I was like, yeah, that's all right. You're still smart. I'm with you on that. So, and if you can do it, I'm going to move my brain into my chest or wherever it is.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So I like that. All right. Any other bad stuff we want to relive, or are we good to keep going? Go back to good stuff.
And I think that's about it from a bad stuff that I can remember anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess there's Future State, but I don't know if I really want to talk about it.
Oh, I don't. Now I'm going to be the one that gets upset. Oh boy.
So. Yes, Torture Jim. Okay, Jihae, bring up Future State. Come on.
I mean, there's really not much to go on there because it was 2 issues and not very well thought out, I don't think.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, I mean, with the Bendis food, I definitely think he took more of having a 12th level intellect as a religion kind of take, where he's like, okay, I just think really hard and then I get smarter and achieve enlightenment. And the outfit too is kind of it almost looks like clergy-like a little bit. But yeah, and then Future State comes up and for some reason, or he's ascended past physical form, so he can now shapeshift into these really ugly shapes.
Yeah, that's right. He has a really weird look in the Future State. In some ways, it's a lot like animated series Brainy, if I remember it right.
Animated series Brainy has battle mode and then regular, and then he just makes his limbs longer and his neck. But Future State Brainy turned into a dragon. He was a long snake thingy with a human head, with the brain exposed. I don't know. There was some seriously ugly stuff in there, but
yeah, I was not a fan of the Future State 2-issue thing at all. But anyway, I don't want to be a downer. So we'll move on from that. I mean, but we should just talk about, I guess, the rebirth Brainy for a bit. I mean, he is honestly it's kind of ironic because when I think back about the Bendis stuff, his Brainiac 5 is probably one of the characters that I didn't have really much of an issue with from a characterization perspective. I mean, he wasn't shown as being a jerk most of the time. He was shown as just kind of being curious and wanting to do cool stuff, so which was, an interesting, different take for sure.
Yeah. I didn't appreciate how he got undercut by Batman that one time. Was that Justice League versus the Legion of Superheroes, where Batman solved the big tech mystery, and I was like, you have Brainiac 5 right there.
Yeah.
Hello. But I mean, I understand it's to sell the book, but
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's a like I said, we can go into a whole different discussion topic thread about that, and we'll just keep it nice and light.
And there is the DC rule where Batman always has to be
Yes, that is true. That is true.
yeah,
the best
exactly.
at everything, right? I always, I mean, it is kind of funny, like when we talk about all of these different versions, and we started talking about the animated series, and I think you can almost say in the last 25 years, the animated series has been the best Brainy.
Absolutely.
Right. And just because I've made this case many, many times when we talk about Brainiac 5, is that I don't think writers know how to write really smart people.
Well, it's hard. It's a difficult thing because, when you're a talented writer, but being a genius is its own kind of thing. I mean, if you ever talk to anybody who's a member of Mensa or something like that, or doctors, like in my line of work, I tend to talk to a lot of doctors and researchers, and I always feel, whenever I have these discussions, I always feel like a complete idiot, right? And so that may be true, but I'm just saying, for the perspective of just being, not as smart as the other people in the room, just it makes you feel humble for one thing. But if you're a regular person writing, it's hard to write in that vein of not only having the attitude and tone of somebody who has that level of smarts, but being able to back it up with the actual information, or vice versa, right? You can research a particular thing and say, okay, put a bunch of figures on the page as part of this dialogue, but to make it sound like it's somebody who knows what they're talking about, that's a challenge. It's a hard thing to do.
True, but I'm gonna push back a little bit on.
So I'm an idiot.
So first,
yeah. Okay,
sorry, no. Well, first of all, I don't think you're an idiot, right? But I like, to me, like when a writer does it well, and I've referenced how much I'm enjoying the new Fantastic Four series written by Ryan North, and part of it is because he's writing a genius really well. Like he writes Reed Richards as somebody who's a genius. And the other one is, I think a lot of writers fall into the cliche of, oh, well, if you're super, super smart, you look down on everybody, or you think that you're better than everybody. And that's why I will probably get some mean feedback from this. I actually don't think people who are in Mensa are necessarily smarter than the rest of us. They're just more intelligent at that level of test. But like, if I'm somebody who's really intelligent, so like I always go with this, really, really intelligent people know what they don't know, or know they don't know things.
Right.
So the intelligent person, like the most intelligent person in the room, is the one who goes, hey, I don't get that, but this person knows more than I do, so I'm going to listen to them. The really intelligent person doesn't look at everybody and go, you're all dumb compared to me, right? It's the person who thinks they're intelligent who is the jerk. It's that Dunning-Kruger kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always think, like, so it's kind of funny you reference doctors. Like my dad used to be a doctor, and I've said doctors are both the smartest and dumbest people I've ever met, right? Because if you put them into a hospital room, wow. But you put them into the real world in many cases, and it's like, wow.
Well, I guess maybe that's what and for Mensa was probably the wrong example to use. But
no, but I can say it with anything.
But I think where we're missing it is, and you're kind of touching on it there, is that when these folks who are extremely intelligent and they have a lot of depth of knowledge in their fields and whatnot, and I've seen this, it's when they talk to each other, it's a different thing, right? It's a completely different discussion that you're just kind of sitting there watching, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of barely holding on to the train of thought here as it's going by. And then if you're having just a basic point to make, they're like, okay, nice, thank you. And then they keep having their discussion, right? It's just because it's a whole different playing ground. It's
right, because you're in their playing ground.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like it's like
exactly.
I always, we're going to get into a big, wide conversation about smart versus intelligent. And sorry for anybody who's thinking this is going to be a Legion podcast. So like when I think of smart, I think of the accumulation of knowledge. Right. So like I have learned all of these things. And so I always make the argument, everybody is smart about something.
Yeah.
Right. So like this podcast is a perfect example. We have 3 people who are really smart about the Legion of Superheroes. And we have this conversation and we know a ton of stuff. And if somebody was going to walk in who's maybe read, who's only watched the animated series, they would sit there and go, holy crap, you guys are in like this whole new world, right? But when I think about intelligence, I think of, there's, what is it? There's like the 11 kinds of intelligence, or I'm probably getting the number wrong. We've been talking a lot about soccer because the World Cup is on right now. Like, is Ronaldo not one of the most intelligent people on a soccer pitch? And like, you put him in a tax room, like to talk about income tax, definitely not one of the most intelligent people, right? So there's that different level of like, what are we smart at, or what are we, what are we intelligent at? And I always think like Brainiac 5 should be the most curious person in the room.
Yeah.
It should just be this like, hey, and when he's having a conversation with Invisible Kid, yes, the rest of the Legion should be like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Like, holy crap. Like, aside from maybe Dream Girl, and who else could play in this yard? Mon-El, if it's a medical thing. Saturn Girl's been shown as being really smart. So, like, they can get into this conversation. But if you're a Colossal Boy, you're like, I don't know anything. I'm just going to walk away.
And let me be clear. I mean, I'm not saying when people have these discussions and the people who are like not nearly as smart are being looked down upon. I mean, that's something that happens sometimes, but it's not that's too broad of a brush. A lot of times people are just fine and they're great people, but you just don't understand what they're talking about. It's just as simple as that. But other than aside from that point, they're just wonderful to hang out with.
Yeah. Well, and
make sure that
I'm not trying to say doctors are all bad. Like, I'm not going with that.
Only evil doctors are bad.
Yeah, only bad doctors are bad. But what I'm saying is, like, to me, the biggest sign of intelligence is the curiosity, because they want to know more, and the understanding of what they don't know. Like, the intelligence and the to be able to say, like, yeah, I don't get this. So to me, like, that should be Brainiac 5 in every moment. So Triplicate Girl should be like the most fascinating Legionnaire to Brainiac 5, because nothing about her makes sense. Like, wait, you split into 3. Where do those cells come from? Where do they go back to? How do you share memories? Where is your clothing coming from? Like, he should just be spending days and days. And it should never be like I think this is dumb. It should be how does this work?
Yeah.
And it should be from this.
This is kind of what he does in the 3 boot when he's trying to preserve Dream Girl, right? He's like, I need to understand why this is happening, how this happened, and I need to get her back somehow. And so, he's obviously dedicating a lot of thought into asking those questions, right?
Yeah. He just doesn't have to be a sociopath while he's doing it. I think it's just, sorry, Jihae, we went on a horrible tangent there.
No, yeah, I agree, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I went to like a pretty prestigious college or whatever, and can definitely confirm like the smartest people or the most intelligent are the ones who are asking questions. And I mean, yeah, it definitely does happen where like people who get their sense of self from being intelligent do sometimes look down on other people. Not everybody's like that. So yeah, I agree. I don't really like seeing that stereotype all the time. Yeah, I prefer the socially awkward Brainy. Like, it doesn't mean any harm, but he just says something that's kind of rude.
Yeah. Like, socially awkward, curious, asking dumb questions, not realizing that it's inappropriate. Like, there's so much, because I think about it. He grew up in a lab. He grew up around nobody else.
Like, he had no social skills at all. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Like, that could be where the comedy for Brainiac 5 comes from. Instead of he's this arrogant jerk who, when he fails, the rest of the team goes, ha ha ha, you failed. And I'm like, that shouldn't be the response. Like, if the smartest guy in your team's screwing up, you have a problem.
Yeah. Although I would push back a little bit on asking stupid questions piece of it, because I think I totally agree that the intelligent people are the ones asking the questions, but they are asking the right questions, right? Because they're smart enough to be able to assemble the facts as they see them, but understand that there's a big gap. And that's the questions they're asking about very specific.
You're right. I shouldn't have said asking stupid questions. I should have said asking awkward,
I like to say there are no stupid
questions,
but sometimes when you're a genius, I think there are.
Stupid questions like, why should I read the Legion of Superheroes?
Exactly.
That's a stupid question. Just read it. Like, it's really simple.
Because it's cool. That's why.
Yes. There we go. Two old guys are telling you that it's cool.
Hey,
listen to Jihae. She's cool.
We made it this far. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Listen to her.
It's the cool one. She'll tell you that it's good. So don't listen to us old guys. Anyway, sorry for that big aside, but it's always the one thing that always stands out for me with Brainiac 5 is I think writers could do a better job. I kind of would expect more, because you've seen writers do it. Like, I think writers have done it on other characters. Like, it's the same. Like, if you can make Tony Stark sound super intelligent, then why can't you make Brainiac 5? I mean, and if you're going to make Lex Luthor super intelligent, why not Brainiac 5? Like, you can do this. It's just up to the writer. Is the writer willing to put in the work? Is the writer willing to be true to the character? And that's all I want. So I'm good with that. So All right, let's move on. I'll finish my rant. There. I have to have one rant every episode, right? So there we go.
Well, that was fun. That was good.
Absolutely. That's your right.
This is the one we get the comments from. So it's like, and if we've learned nothing else from today's world, the people who claim to be the smartest are the dumbest people in the.
Oh
Anyways,
boy.
happy 4th of July. And let's. All right. We've kind of brought up a few of these. Let's talk about the characters that are most closely connected to Brainiac 5. So obvious one, Supergirl. We've mentioned that already. Invisible Kid, Dream Girl, especially when we get into 3 boot. But I even think Volume 3, they kind of tie her to him. And I'll be honest, after the 3 boot, I kind of started. Here's my old man attempt to sound young. I started shipping Dream Girl and Brainiac 5. Sorry, I'll stop doing this.
I mean, it's the lingo of the fandom. It's faster than saying.
Yeah. I think that was an interesting connection. Any other characters that he's kind of connected, that he's very connected to?
Jihae, you want to go first?
Well, I guess there was Laurel, as we talked about. Though they had that unexplained breakup in the 5 years later, where she went off and married his best friend. And I don't know. I would have liked to know what was going on there, but I don't even remember Brainy and Rond having a conversation about it, to be honest. But I mean, yeah, then the other one is Rond, I think.
Yep. No, Rond is the big one that I was thinking about. I mentioned Circadia earlier. He's another one that you see him around a lot with. I would tend to also say that I think he and Saturn Girl kind of saw eye to eye on a lot of things, because she has, she's not obviously as intelligent, but her powers are mentally based. So I think they have a little bit more of an understanding when they're talking together.
And they also, sorry.
I was just going to say that their friendship is like one of my favorites from the Baxter era.
Yeah.
I feel like they both understand really well, like being misunderstood by other people, because they're kind of like socially different. Like Saturn Girl keeps getting called the Ice Queen, but like, is she really? No, nah, she's not. But, and like, people think Brainy's really rude, but he's not trying to be rude. So I think they kind of connect on that level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. It's a great friendship. I think because they're both outsiders, right? Like people have trouble trusting them for different reasons.
Put Cam in that bucket too.
Yeah. And I keep going with, like, I still like the fact that Saturn Girls was a part of the Mon-El lead cure. Like, they wrote her super intelligent back in the Silver Age. And so I think she's a lot smarter than I think a lot of readers give her credit for. And I think there was that connection there. Like, there's a reason why those 4 were in the Universo project,
exactly,
right? Because I think you could say those are the 4 smartest Legionnaires in the Baxter run. Great call on that friendship. I love those moments between Brady and Saturn Girl. I think they're excellent. I think he's got some good Element Lad moments as well. They connect every once in a while. I think because they're both kind of so committed to the Legion. And I have to mention Coco, even though I didn't like it, but I got why they did it. It was just,
what? Why not? I like Coco.
Why don't you like monkeys, Jay?
So. Oh, you mean the monkey who became the king of the monkeys when they wrote him out of the reboot?
Planet of the Apes.
So I don't know. Maybe I just don't have a sense of humor. Maybe that's what it is. It just didn't work. Anybody else that we're missing? I think that's good.
The only other off the wall one that I'm going to throw out there is the connection that the 5 years later Brainy had with his younger counterpart. That's it's just, it's a little bit different, but they did work in tandem a few times before he got old and puffy.
I forgot the best connection, right? Brainiac 5 and Dawnstar on the drug planet where they
Jeez Louise.
We're gonna go to the crap again.
Oh, man. I thought we agreed not to talk about Tails here.
I did track that was the first time that they referred to each other by their nicknames, Brainy and Donnie, instead of calling each other Dawnstar and Brainiac 5. So I thought that was cute, but other than that, that was a strange story.
Oh, it's a horrible story. And it's just like, what is this? But you know what? It was a writing tryout, so I can't really rip it too much. And an art tryout. Like they're like, hey, let's fill some pages. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else who really kind of leaps out on this. A lot of times he just ends up being written as the loner, so he's kind of by himself.
I mean, you guys kind of talked about it in the animated series episode, I guess, but I mean, there's the Superman friendship slash. I think the creators did confirm that it was supposed to be a crush.
Mhm.
Yeah, in like a recent interview, so that was fun. I don't know, I like that. And
Yeah,
also
no,
from the animated show Shrinking Violet, like in the second season,
That's true.
or
That's
yeah,
true. And
they
there's a
had a
lot of
little bit
shipping around
too.
them too as well.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, we could probably spend half an hour just talking about like how well they handled him on the animated series and
Yeah,
like
we really
moments like
could.
that. Because yeah, like I think the connection to Superman, the connection to the challenge to relate with the other heroes. Yeah, the Shrinking Violet bit. I mean, it's really well done, and it's especially the Shrinking Violet. Like I didn't. That's a path I would not have expected them to
Yeah.
take. But
Well, actually, now that you mention it, I think one of the ways that got, I guess, surfaced in the animated show was that in the 3 boot there is a connection between Brainy and the Imskians all up, and so Shrinking Violet has this, or Atom Girl, whatever, has this almost religious view of Brainy. I wouldn't quite go that far, but it's a very reverential view of who he is and what he does. So, which is another, like you said, it's an interesting take.
yeah, you could go even further back than that, I think, because in the animated series, the reason he kind of gains respect for Shrinking Violet is because she goes inside Garth's bloodstream and like connects all his nerves
That's
to
right.
his new arm, right? And in the Silver Age, there was a story where she went inside Clark's body, I think it was. I forget
Something like,
why,
yeah,
but
I vaguely remember
yeah,
what you're
so
talking about
I
there. Yeah.
thought that was a reference to that, but I didn't remember the 3 boot connection, but there's that too.
that's probably good for your sanity. So the more you forget,
Real?
so it's yeah. I think that's good. The only other thing only other question I had, unless there's anything that we missed, anything Brainiac 5 that we want to talk about, I was going to go to the final wrap up question. So, Jihae, anything that we missed?
I mean, yes, but I'm not sure if like
Oh,
I don't know.
please.
There's just so much with this character
Yeah,
that
there
it's
is.
kind
Yes.
of like
There really
I
is.
don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think we got a pretty good overview.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's as I said, earlier, there's so much stuff with Brainiac 5, as you just said, and I was surprised at how many points where he's critical to the series, or he's the one driving the story, or I mean, from the simple one of like he's the one who figures out its dark side, and he's the one who the whole Pulsar Stargrave storyline is revolving around him,
Mhm.
and he kind of ends up showing up in all the big storylines. I think because the writers, I mean,
Well, yeah, like you said before, he's
yeah,
visually appealing and he's an interesting character. Yeah, at
yeah,
the end of the day.
yeah.
And just to let everybody know, we are going to be talking about Pulsar Stargrave very specifically very soon. So stay
So
tuned for
yeah, we'll also be talking about Volume 3 very specifically very soon. So
that.
here's all of our plugs as we're going to
Yeah.
get into all of this. So my last question is based on the big reveal for the new Legion, because normally we'd ask, how should they use the character moving forward? Well, we've already seen how they're going to use the
Yeah, we have a
character moving
tease.
forward. We've seen Brainiac 105. So I wanted to get your take. Like, what do you think of the new look, the new design, the new idea of like, are there 5 of them? What are your initial thoughts after seeing the descriptions and then the pictures? Jim or Jihae, whoever would like
Well,
to.
Jihae, you're our guest, so we'll let you go
Yeah.
first.
Oh, all right. Um, yeah, I mean, as I kind of came into the Legion comics like between reboots, so I don't really have one that I'm like. Well, I mean, I have a favorite, but it's not like I get really mad about reboots.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the main thing about it is I'm just trying to like keep an open mind and not get too bogged down by what I would do personally or like what I would want. But yeah, it looks really good so far. The art is crazy. Yeah, that page with Brainiac 105 and then the other 4. I think we talked about this a bit on the server. We were kind of debating, but I have like a couple theories of where it might be going. So either like we talked about in the server, there are literally 5 of them. I think they might do like something like a hive mind or the sleep net from the reboot and
Mm.
the hive mind from the animated show, something like that. It could be an artistic representation of like the multiple trains of thought, because that was a thing in reboot as well. Or they could be clones, like in the animated movie that just came out. Or they might do ancestral memory, like in the Supergirl show. I think that's what they did with that one. again, haven't watched the whole thing, but I think that's what they did. So I don't know. There's so many directions it could take.
No, that's
What
cool.
did you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I love everything you were saying there. The whole ancestral memory take was really, really neat. I'm very curious. I'm just as curious as you all are about where Josh is going to take this and take the character, just because it looks like such a unique take. So I'm excited. And so I know, I think, Jay, when we had our special announcement podcast a few weeks back, we talked about this a little bit. Like you were saying, Jihae, on the server, we're talking about it too. And there's some, I think, is it just 5 different thought streams processing different pieces of information to knit it together? Are they different personalities? I love the ancestral memories. Is it different parts of different pieces of experience so that Brainiac can go back and analyze that? Or is it all of the above? What is it? Why are there 5 nodes on his head? I'm really, really excited to see where this goes. And here's the other thing that I'm very curious about, is that the way they're kind of talking about it makes it seem like he might be the older person in the group. So I'm assuming that he is still a teenager, but we're just gonna have to wait and find out, I think. And I'm pretty excited to find out what that is.
Yeah, it's. Well, I mean, it looks like he's the one who's behind the formation, right?
Right.
So he's the one driving the Legion bus here. I will say this: if there's a moment where you have Brainiac and Viral Docs and what's his son's name, and then whoever Brainiac 4 is,
Lyral?
and they're all sorry.
Oh, Lyral, I think
Yes,
is his name.
yes.
Not sure to pronounce that, but
Oh no, I had no clue, so you're ahead of me on that one. And we're good with guessing and mispronouncing.
Yes. Yeah.
If the 4 of them are inside his head arguing about what they should be doing, and he's the body controlling everything, that's a compelling story right there.
Right.
Of just like, because I think of to go back to the animated series, the very end where like original Brainy is taking over and Brainiac 5 is trying to fight him down. You go into something like that. And then if you're a fan of Legion, you get Viral back, and like you could pull in so much DC history here that could be fascinating. I just, again, like I say, I think it's great to sort of have him driving, like pushing everything forward and being in more of a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. And again, you mentioned as well, it looks so good. The design looks so good. I'm not even complaining about missing the blonde hair. Like it's I mean, okay, let's get back to the bad costume and the no fashion, but it just looks stunning. So I'm really hoping.
I mean, it's something that I was thinking too, and I've seen a couple comments on this online, is that the look, especially in some of those alternate covers, he almost looks kind of sinister. He has this kind of a very mysterious and sinister look to him. But I mean, I'm hoping he's going to be a hero, but I think it's going to be something that's very different than we've seen, which is a good thing. And I'm heartened by the fact that I know Josh can write characters. When we saw him in the second Legion of Darkseid issue in the Superman run, he had all 5 of the previous Brainies there. He nailed, they even had, each of them only had a few lines, but he nailed their personality in those lines. So whatever he's going to be doing here, maybe they're the other, because if we'll remember, right, there were 5 Brainiacs on that table. Maybe these are those 5 Brainiacs from the multiverse. Who knows, right? But either way, I know that if it's the latter, I know that Josh can write those characters. And I think if he's making something new, that's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yep. I like it. All right. I think we've covered as much about Brainiac 5 without this turning into a 4-hour long podcast. And I know, I mean, after talking to Leah, right, Jihae, that's the plan for the future, the 4-hour long deep dives.
Yes. So if you do want the 4-hour long version,
we do.
Leah
we want this.
So consider this part 2 for all the listeners and we got such great feedback when Leah came on. And I know that there are a ton of people who would love to hear you and her deep dive these characters to a far greater extent than we are. Consider this like 2 more votes of like, please do this. We want to hear this. It's that's sort of my tricky reason for trying to get you on this podcast, just to have more voices going, please do this. Please do this. This will be awesome.
So, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Since you haven't started that podcast yet, where can everybody find you? Like, I know you've posted a few things to YouTube. I don't know if you're still doing it, but if there's links that people can check out. Also, if you haven't seen Jihae's artwork yet, get onto the Legion Discord boards or wherever they can see it. It's wow, great to see. So please tell everybody where all the different places they can find you and see your work.
Yeah. So to the point about my art, though, I'm still learning, so I don't want to overhype it. But I
Jay,
think I'm one of the only people
created the Bald Legion. Come on, this is
true.
awesome stuff.
So you didn't oversell it. We're upselling. That's like, no. So you're being the humble one. We're being the, no. It's really good, everybody. So like, go check it out. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a YouTube channel called KJC Comics. I'm working on a zombie comic right now, so I'm kind of posting about that a lot lately. Space opera is on my list of projects I want to do, but I feel like I need more experience first. So, cut my teeth on zombies, surely. But yeah,
No pun
and
intended.
yeah, I'll be on the Legion roll call stuff with Leia. So I think she already gave you the link tree for that.
Yep. But we'll put
Yeah,
this on. We'll put this on the show notes anyway.
I'm on Instagram as well, which is a terrible place, but I am there. Unfortunately, you kind of need that for an art career these days. But yeah, KJC Comics on there as well.
Cool. All right. Jim, where can everybody find you?
I have my Legion Reviews website at jimboslegion.blogspot.com, where I have a bunch of reviews going from, believe I'm starting at Legion Worlds, going on all through the end of the reboot, if I'm not mistaken. And I've also started posting just kind of thought pieces on there as well. I put in a piece last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember, about the fact that now that we have a new Legion coming with the new announcements and all that stuff, we're starting to see people going online saying, well, that's not my Legion. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's none of our Legions. It's probably, if it's anybody's, it's going to be something like Jihae's who's going to be carrying this forward into the future. But I think it's going to be something that's interesting and different enough that all of us should give it a try and give it a look. So, and it's gotten a lot of good response. So I'm probably going to be doing more of those. I want to do another kind of an overview of that Legion of Darkseid arc that happened in Superman, which is now available in trade, I believe. And anyway, so go there, find all that stuff, and give me some comments. And as I add new stuff, please let me know. And then you can also find me personally on Blue Sky at jimbofett.bsky.social. I'm on Reddit as JimboFett87 and on Discord as JimboFett on the Legion Fan Club Discord that we were talking about here, as well as the Certain Point of View Discord. How about you, Jay?
All right. So I write my weekly column at jmlonglivethelegion.blogspot.com, where I review old Legion stories. I'm going to say neck deep in Retro Boot at this point. And
sorry.
So I'm actually trying my best to be as positive as I can, which is really funny because some people will be like, yep, it's all good. And other people are like, why are you being positive about this? This is horrible. So I'm trying my best to just be like, oh, I like this. I like this. And there have been,
Secret
I will say
stuff.
this. I didn't think I would find this with the new 52, but it's kind of a 50-50 prop right now. Legion Lost is just irretrievably horrible, but everything else I'm kind of getting a little bit of joy out of.
Well, so, as they said in Hamilton, just you wait.
Yes, I know. I'm waiting. If you want to find me on Blue Sky at jmckernan.bsky.social. And I will say this, if you listen to this podcast and you want to connect with me on Blue Sky, please tell me, like send a little message in chat. Hey, I heard your podcast and this is why I want to follow you. So that way I'll know to follow you back. And I don't think you're just a random person trying to get me to buy something or what else do I get all the time?
Oh, no, let's not go there.
Yeah. I'm also on Discord and I'm on Reddit under the username Drake Burrows. And if you don't want to reach out to me or Jim, but you want to reach out to the podcast in general, our email address is longlivethelegion2025@gmail.com. We get some great comments on there. We found multiple guests through people who've emailed us through that. So please don't hesitate to let us know what you think. And who knows, you might be on a future episode of this esteemed podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then if you want to follow the podcast or get access to the Legion Discord, you can shoot us an email at the email that Jay just said, or you can reach out at longlivethelegion.bsky.social. And we're also pretty much everywhere else from a social media perspective. Most of the time we're just repeating what we've posted on Blue Sky, but we're trying to be a little bit more engaged on the Insta and Facebook side of things, but that's still work in progress. But regardless, please give us a 5-star rating on your podcatcher of choice, or give us more than one. We're happy with that too. It helps with all those, what do they call them? The
algorithms?
The algorithms. That's it. I should know that word. So anyway.
We're on vacation.
Yeah,
Come
I know.
on.
I'm still on vacation brain. So anyway, I think that'll wrap it up. So thanks for listening. We have a lot of really great content coming up, even before the new book gets launched. So stay tuned. And we're going to go ahead and shut that monitor board off and say, long live the Legion.
Long live the Legion.
Long live the Legion.
Long live the Legion.
Hey, Nerf herders.
You sure you want to go with that?
Hey, everyone.
There we go. More inviting.
Have you ever had a movie that you really wanted to love, but something holds you back?
Or one that you did love in spite of a flaw?
Well, I'm Case Aiken.
And I'm Sam Alisea.
And on Another Pass, we sit down with cool guests to look at movies that we find fascinating.
But flawed.
And we try to imagine what could have been done when they were made to give them that little push.
We're not experts. We just believe in criticism.
Constructive criticism.
Sure.
So come take another pass at some movies with us.
And every now and then we can celebrate movies that did it on their own too.
You can find us at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Pass it on.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.